charges to the persecution inflicted by the Nazis in 1930s Germany. Donald Trump is due in court tomorrow. Our correspondent James Matthews has this report.
We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
It is the case of the president and the attempted coup.
Together we will drain the Washington swamp.
This is how an effort to overthrow democracy looked
We have a breach of the Capitol.
on January the 6th, 2021.
And we will clean up the corruption in our nation's capital.
Security members on the other side. Copy.
Prosecutors believe that Donald Trump fits into the picture. The candidate for the next election is accused of trying to steal the last one. On this, his third indictment, Donald Trump faces 4 charges. Conspiracy to defraud the United States and to obstruct the January the 6th vote certification, the obstruction of that event, and conspiracy against rights to vote.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies.
It wouldn't be the first time they did it.
Rudy Giuliani is among presidential aides named as co-conspirators in the indictment. The lawyer and former mayor of New York is one of 6 described as having spread lies about the election and having obstructed its certification. In detailing the conspiracy charges against Donald Trump, the indictment states that they were built on mistrust created by him through pervasive and destabilizing lies about election fraud that targeted a bedrock function of the United States government, the process of collecting and counting votes. In a statement, Donald Trump called the indictments against him persecutions, reminiscent, he said, of Nazi Germany in the 1930s. They sang about prison when he last took the campaign stage, without a hint of irony. There's a hint of the noose tightening about the case of the United States versus Donald J. Trump. James Matthews, Sky News, in Washington.
Well, Donald Trump has slammed the latest charges of dishonesty, deceit and fraud against him as a fake. The former US president's accused of attempting to overturn the result of the 2020 US presidential election, linking him to the January the 6th Capitol riots. In footage released of the insurrection, you may remember seeing a rioter wearing a horned headdress with his face painted with the colours of the American flag. Jacob Chansley was jailed over his participation in the riot, and he joins me now from Arizona. Thank you for coming on the programme. Now, you were among the first rioters into the Capitol building. In a sense, you know, your image of the headdress and the horns became symbolic of this attack on American democracy. My first question is, do you regret it now?
Well, first of all, I noticed in the clips that you guys showed that you did not show the clip of Donald Trump talking about going to the Capitol peacefully. Secondly, I am not a rioter. I did not riot on that day. And lastly, if we look into the claims that were made and the amount of cases all over the country regarding this notion of election fraud and dead people voting and, you know, ballot harvesting and you know, drop boxes and stuff like that, then many of these claims may not be unfounded, and all of those things could easily be subpoenaed during Trump's trial. Now, regarding this idea of regrets, we all have regrets in life, sir, but if we live in the past and we allow our regrets to weigh down our minds and our hearts, then we cannot spiritually ascend. We cannot become better men. We cannot become better women.
So you do regret it? You see, the reason I ask... The reason I ask is that you say it wasn't a riot, and you say that it was Donald Trump was talking about it being peaceful.
I did not riot.
No.
What I said was I did not riot.
OK, and you said Donald Trump said it should be peaceful, but effectively, the people who went into the Capitol building forced a crucial session of Congress to be abandoned, sent fear throughout the building, and dozens of police were injured. So it sounds to me like it wasn't peaceful and it was a riot.
Well, I said I didn't riot. That's what I said. There was certainly a riot outside, but inside the building, there was largely peaceful demonstrations going on. The only real casualty was a woman that was 5'0" and was shot by a Capitol police officer, and she was unarmed. And also, I wanted to speak to this notion. We don't live in a democracy here in the United States of America. We live in a constitutional republic. And the Operation Mockingbird media just keeps pushing this notion that this is a democracy. This is a democracy. You know, Benjamin Franklin once said that a democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what's for dinner, and a republic is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. And I think that is a distinction that should be made clear.
Well, you can elect a president every 4 years, and and it does go on. And there were no suggestions that the last election was fraudulent. I just wonder about Donald Trump, because he's now charged with spreading lies to overturn the election. You bought into those lies. I just wonder if you're angry that you have spent such a long time in prison because of the lies and the deceit of Donald Trump.
Well, if you watch the documentary 2000 Mules and you look at the evidence regarding the election, then it's quite clear that not only was the 2020 election rigged and corrupted, but pretty much every election since Kennedy and even beforehand has been corrupted. I mean, the only reason Kennedy got into office was because his father had connections with the mob, the CIA, and the FBI, and this is a proven
Jacob,
fact.
There's no evidence.
But hold on.
But there's no evidence the
that's
2020 election was fraudulent.
What you're doing,
there's no evidence.
No, what you're doing is
simply
you're
no
now,
evidence.
Hold on. No, that's not true. And there was no evidence whatsoever that Donald Trump was colluding with Russia. But that didn't stop the media from pushing that narrative and spying on his campaign and spying on him as a president for 4 years. That didn't stop them from pushing those lies that have never been retracted.
Do you still believe the election was stolen? Do you still believe the election was stolen?
Have you read the book Rigged?
I'm asking you, do you still believe the election was stolen?
I believe that the election in 2020, like the election here in Arizona in 2022, just like many elections over the last several decades, are rigged. They are selection processes, not election processes.
Well,
because there is a very real shadow government, a very real bureaucratic mess in Washington, D.C. that is connected to globalist New World Order interests that are trying to monopolize all of our resources and all of our labor all over the planet. They are trying to enslave the planet.
Right. Isn't the stolen election theory just one of the conspiracy theories spouted by QAnon? I mean, do you still believe a secret cabal controls global governments? Do you still believe Hollywood and the liberal Democrat elite crave the blood of children in a bid to sustain their youth and run a vast paedophile ring devoted to abduction and sexual abuse of children? Do you believe those things?
Do you mean like what Jeffrey Epstein was doing?
Do you believe
Is that
those
what you're talking about? Things like that? Hold on. Are you aware of the Council on Foreign Relations? Are you aware of the Bilderberg Group? Are you aware of the IMF?
You're putting it about that senior Democrat politicians were involved in a vast
it's Republicans and Democrats. No. It's Republicans and Democrats. Because
so you still believe this stuff?
Look into the Franklin cover-up. Okay? What we're talking about here is a uniparty in D.C. that has been blackmailed or coerced into submission to a much larger global New World Order.
Jacob, what we're talking about here is zero evidence. That's what we're talking about here. Look,
that's not what we're talking about here.
If Donald Trump is found guilty, what will happen? Will there be unrest, do you think? Does he have enough support?
Well,
does he still have that kind of support that would cause unrest?
Here's the thing. The conspiracy charge was used to go after mafia members, and it has since been used to go after American citizens for a long time. And it's very easy to get a conviction based on a conspiracy charge. Okay, that's why they charged him with conspiracy. Now, this may end up backfiring because the information regarding the election will end up becoming public knowledge through these court filings. So this may end up snapping back on the people that are pressing these charges, because now it all is going to be out in the open, and the very real evidence that there was fraudulent or rigged certain portions of the election. I mean, think about it. Every time
there is no evidence.
Hold on,
Jacob,
hold on, dude.
We
Every
spent about
time,
7 or 8 minutes talking about conspiracies. We should
every
probably
time,
leave it there, I think.
hold on. Every time the Democrats lose an election, they scream election fraud and they scream election rigging. Every time the Republicans lose, they scream election fraud and election rigging.
Yeah.
So the centrist view, the objective view, is that our elections are corrupt in the United States of America, and they have been corrupt for a long time.
Jacob, this time there is no evidence that the 2020 election.
That's not true at all. You're lying.
There is no
You're
evidence.
lying.
Look, we could go on all night. We're talking about conspiracies an awful lot, so we might as well end it there. But listen, I appreciate you coming on the program.
Conspiracy theory is something.
Conspiracy
theory is a title that was used by the CIA and the media after nobody buyed what.
Thank you very much, Jacob.